All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. You're not going to hear Justine on this one. Somebody else is here in the room. And if you watch our reels on social media, you'll know who it is. I'm welcoming back my wonderful friend Mo to the podcast because we are talking from Under the Cork Tree by Fall Out Boy. And I'm so excited. And Justine will be back soon. She's out of the surgery, but I'm so thankful for Mo to come on. Mo, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you? It's good to be back.
I know. I'm so glad. Like, again, I know we were talking off camera, but it was when I was thinking of the people, like, who can I bring on that love Fall Out Boy, love this record? And I was like, I need to bring Mo back. Plus, like, you had such a great episode too. So, everybody, I'll link that below. Check out Mo's episode. She's so inspiring. She's so wonderful and a huge Fall Out Boy fan. So, obviously, if you clicked on this, you love From Under the Cork Tree, or you love Fall Out Boy, or maybe you don't like them. But for whatever reason you're here, this obviously came out in May 3rd, 2005 by Island Records, and it was their major label debut. And it's one of those things, I know a lot of people, I don't know about you, Mo, but a lot of people say this is their second record. But technically, they had Evening Out with Your Girlfriend, Take This to Your Grave, and this. And people have fought me on this, but I don't know. Like, I was looking at their Wikipedia, and I know people are going to say, oh, it's Wikipedia, but I guess From Evening Out was like their mini album, they called it. But so many people fight me on this, because the sophomore slump comeback of the year, but that this is their second one. I don't know. But for whatever reason, however you think it, it's a great record. But I know Pete Wentz was on record saying that obviously the lyrics on this record were about the anxiety and depression that goes along with looking at your own life. And I think you can definitely hear that in this record. And I mean, you even know, and back in February in 2005, Pete Wentz was talking about the anxieties, and he even had he even tried to take his own life over the anxieties of this record, which is pretty crazy to think about. And I think back then, when we talk music and mental health and Fall Out Boy, there you go. And the pressure of this debut, because as much as like I say, okay, yeah, From Evening Out, most people don't even know that record. So this was their debut. I know anyone around you, Mo, was anyone like, did they find Fall Out Boy from this record that you knew of? Or most of the people you knew them from Take This to Your Grave?
Yeah, most people probably take this to your grave. Stephen, of course, he introduced me to Evening Out, and then, of course, take this to your grave as well.
Yeah. So it's like it's a lot of people I knew that when I worked at Chili's. I mean, shout out to Chili's, but when I worked at Chili's, they only knew them from this record. So I mean, I know this was going to be a huge record, and it was. They even had a separate version of this album come out in 2006. It was the limited Black Clouds and Underdogs edition. But I think it's so wild to look back on this record in 2005. That's where we met. So it's special to have you on today too, because we met at the CD release. But I would love to know for you, Mo, what are your thoughts on From Under the Cork Tree?
Yeah, of course. So I love this album even to this day. I know a lot of people have kind of some mixed feelings about it, but I feel like from Under the Cork Tree it was a quintessential album. It perfectly captured that era in the 2000s with pop punk. I feel like it was a turning point for Fall Out Boy. I feel like it propelled them from underground success to their mainstream. Take This to Your Grave. It will always be my favorite of theirs, but this is definitely a second favorite. I feel like the album does a really good job of blending catchy hooks with the lyrics, as we talked about with Pete Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
He often likes to deliver, very vulnerable reflections on identity, relationships, self-discovery. A couple of songs that kind of come to mind, like a little less 16 Candles, a little more Touch Me. That kind of offers a glimpse into the band's emotional landscape, while the song Nobody Puts Baby into a Corner resonates with a blend of youthful defiance and earnest sentiment. So I feel like musically the album strikes a perfect balance between the angst and melody.
Like with this record, I think a lot of people love to call it pop punk, that pop punk record. But even listening to it again before I knew we were going to record, I'm like, I don't even know if I would call this like pop punk. I think Fall Out Boy just created like I don't even know what to call it because it wasn't just a pop record, but where Take This to Your Grave was more of that pop punk. This was definitely where you could see they were going to head in a very different direction because I think about like, well, even like Dance Dance. I think about Dance Dance. That's nowhere near a pop punk song when I think about it, but it just is Fall Out Boy. And I think what was really cool is when I think about the records that came out right in this year of 2005, there was really nothing sounding like Fall Out Boy. Like there was nothing that I can say, okay, that sounded, I mean, people are going to argue Panic at the Disco there because I've heard that argument, but I just think I remember hearing this record and it was because I loved Take This to Your Grave and I was really excited about it. And then I saw the Sugar We're Going Down video and I was like, this is really cool video. But I just ended up seeing them at Hollister during this cycle of this record. And I remember that's where I became obsessed because I was like, what is this? How is this band playing Hollister? I'm working upstairs at the Gap. Like, how is this possible? What is this energy? Where are all these kids? Like, what is this about Fall Out Boy? And just becoming obsessed with this band and this record, seeing them on that Nintendo Fusion tour, and then after the CD release show. But like the CD release show, I think it was, who was it? Was it Spitalfield? The Academy
Spitalfield.
is.
Yep.
And I think there was somebody else, or maybe not.
Gym Class Heroes, maybe.
Maybe it wasn't October Fall. That was, or maybe it,
I think it was October Fall. I
I
think you're
think,
correct.
yeah, which is wild to think all those bands in that time. And I just think that what a special time too for like to Spitalfield to do that. And I just gushed about Spitalfield on Unsigned Pop Punk podcast, like spoiler alert, whenever that comes out. But we had said how much we love Spitalfield. And I think those two together and that show at the Riviera for From Under the Cork Tree and CD release, that changed everything for me. Where like I loved the record and obviously we got to hear it before that CD release because 5705 is like our little anniversary, so which was really cool. But it just is this record was so special. It just, I don't know. The minute I heard it, I loved it and I was obsessed with it. And some people might say I was biased because I already loved them, but like I also was nervous about this record because I knew they were going to probably blow up and I wanted to gatekeep Fall Out Boy. I did not want people at my work singing Sugar We're Going Down. Like I love this band. Like I was that gatekeeper. I've said it before on the podcast, but like I was one of those people that I did not want them to get big at that point. But I was younger. Now I'm like, I'm glad. I'm so happy for them. They're doing amazing things. They're larger than life and everybody loves them. But I guess we have to also talk about our favorite tracks. So I would love to know what tracks for you are your favorite on here.
So I would say some of my favorite tracks, of course, my all-time favorite is Sophomore Slump or Comeback of the Year. Really resonates with me on a deeper level. And like you said before, with Pete and his lyrics, a lot of people may think it was kind of a catchy album, but really deep down, if you kind of take a little bit deeper look at it, I think it's the way the song kind of captures the tension between personal doubt and external expectations. Fall Out Boy at the time, they were coming off their success of Take This to Your Grave, and they were facing a lot of pressure to kind of prove, they weren't just one hit wonder. That feeling of needing to prove yourself while battling your own insecurities is something I can definitely relate to in my own life, as I'm sure a lot of other people can too. But lyrically, I love how this song is almost like a defiant anthem against the idea that you need to live up to other people's expectations. It has a very raw honesty to it. Like they're calling out the industry, their critics, and even some of their own fans saying, we're here for ourselves, not for you. And there's just something empowering about that. It hits home, especially when you're going through moments of self-doubt or questioning whether you're on the right path. So musically, it was a very perfect balance between vulnerability and upbeat energy. It was very catchy. It was also kind of biting, like they were still figuring out at the time, but refusing to be brought down. And it's a great reminder that growth isn't always a smooth ride, but you can still come out stronger. And with this song, I actually have one of the lyrics tattooed on me. I swear I'd burn the city down to show you the light. It just kind of shows a testament to like how much of it's my favorite song from the album.
I thought of you. I for some reason I couldn't remember. I was like, I swear it was this song. But do you have XO at all on you, or is that somebody else I'm thinking of?
Yeah, I actually have that tattooed on my left ring finger,
Hmm.
along with like a bunch of other friends of mine that I've actually met through Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, no, that's another reason why, like anybody listening, why Mo had to be on here because one, we have so I think this record too, like that's how we met. And that's also like the fact that during this album cycle of touring, we went to so many of these shows, like especially the Fusion tour. There was something else because I remember we were in Milwaukee and we went through the meet and greet, which was interesting because it was like so different than Chicago, like less kids, like not saying anything bad about Milwaukee, but I don't know, it was at the rave in Milwaukee. And I remember like we got in and out of that meet and greet like so quick. And it was wild to think about like back then that like I think I still have that album cover somewhere. I have to get it out, but it's signed from there. And I just remember too during this time how kind they were at those things like meet and greets, whether it was Warp Tour or their show, because they were blowing up like so fast. And I think all it took for them was to get on like Island Records and have Sugar We're Going Down at like Hollister and like everywhere and MTV. And people like, as much as people want to say anything about Pete Wentz, he was kind of that heartthrob. Everybody, like all these girls loved Pete Wentz. I was not attracted to Pete Wentz. No disrespect. I mean, somehow I don't think he'll listen to this, but I know a lot of girls around me, they were like, that's the look, that's the guy we like. And like Pete Wentz was like everywhere too. And like all the like, what was that called? Not J14, Bop Magazine, all that. And that was crazy to see too. Like Pete Wentz just becoming like that, you know, small hoodie, girl jeans, skinny jeans look before it was cool. So I remember that about like that album cycle for sure. But were there any other songs that you liked that were a favorite, or was that just the one?
That's my top one. I do have quite a few more. I don't know how much
Yeah.
time we got here. I remember you talking about Dance Dance,
Yes.
which is funny because a lot of people would be like, that would be my probably one of my lowest on the charts for like favorites. But
Yeah.
um, one, I was an extra in the music video, and I will say we had to listen to that song on repeat for 48 hours straight for like 12 hours. I'm trying to think. I think we were there for like 3 days. I can't remember how long each day, but it was like a total of 48 hours of that song on repeat. And if I still like it after that, then you know it's something. It was a
Hmm.
really fun shoot, but I'm in the video for like a quick second, but it was still fun to do. But it really stands out because first, of course, it's a really fun and infectious song. I feel like the energy really grabs you from the start, you know, whether it's the drums, the bass line, Patrick's voice. I feel like he has one of the best voices we've heard in a while. And I know a lot of people may argue with me on that, but that's okay.
Hmm.
But it's just one of those songs that makes you move no matter, you know, how many times you've heard it. And, you know, beyond that, I think it's the layer of the lyrics. You know, it's not just about dancing or having fun. It's about awkward moments, social anxiety, as I know you touched base on earlier, you know, feeling out of place in situations. But the whole idea of pretending everything's fine on the outside while you're nervous or comfortable or uncomfortable, you know, it's just something a lot of people have experienced. And they really captured this feeling with Dance Dance. You know, not only was it high energy, as I mentioned, but you just can't help but enjoy the song, you know, even if you connect with it, whether you've been in those situations or just on the, you know, the fun aspect of it. So for this track, you know, it was definitely a good mixture of fun and deep meaning. You know, it's just a song that makes you feel good, you know, whether you're going to listen to it for the lyrics or you're going to listen to it for the beat. So that's definitely stuck with me over the years. And then I would say another really good one is of all the gin joints in all the world. This one, I feel like it's a really good classic Fall Out Boy with their sharpness. There's a sense of heartbreak through the song, but it's presented in such a clever, almost sarcastic way, which I know a lot of people who know me and Andy were both very sarcastic. So I think that's really kind of where I connected with that song. I just love how the lyrics make you feel like they're coming from someone who's hurting but is still trying to keep it together with this facade of coolness. You know, that tension between emotional turmoil and trying to play it off hits home. It feels really relatable. And, you know, musically, it's one of those tracks that manages, again, it was a really high energy album. But at the same time, the lyrics that Pete put together were really captivating. So I feel like with this song in particular, you know, again, it's a great layer of lost love, regret, maybe even self-destruction. And I remember you bringing up, you know, the time of when this album was written and what kind of what Pete was going through. So it definitely can, you can see that in the lyrics, and it just captures that feeling of when you're trying to move on, but you know, you're holding on to something, whether it's pain or regret or whatever it may be, but just the emotional capacity that the song brings out. So another really good one.
Oh, yeah. And now I feel guilty, like, later when I'll talk about any songs we didn't like, because you put Dance Dance so perfectly, and I'm gonna look like such the jerk because I'm like, "I did not like Dance Dance because I felt like it was, like, not the Fall Out Boy." But I remember you in that video and being the extra, probably that experience because on a much smaller scale, we did the Hush Sound video, which was really, really fun. But I can only imagine on that Dance Dance level of doing that because it was cool for the Hush sound. I love that song, but, like, even hearing "Crawling Towards the Sun" so many times that day, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is a lot." And again, you were a much bigger scale video Dance Dance was, and I remember I remember when it came out and I found you, and if you paused it and you zoomed or whatever, I was like, "Oh my god, there's Mo." Like, that's just so cool. And again, that's another reason why, like, we had to have you on here because that is such, as much as I don't like that song, and I'll get into that later, it was such an important song for Fall Out Boy. Like, that was one of the biggest songs. Like, if you ask most fans, they love Dance Dance. I don't know, I just something about it, but, like, I we have some similar ones too, for sure. Like, for me, a favorite was Of All the Gin Joints in the World because it just, again, it's that quintessential, I think, Fall Out Boy song, and it was on here, and it was the most like, "Okay, this is reminding me of, like, the Fall Out Boy I knew," because this record was so different, but again, like we were saying with Pete and the lyrics, because, like, on this record, if anyone doesn't know, Pete did all the lyrics for it, so it wasn't Patrick, and Patrick did all the instrumentation and the music, however you wanna say it, like, someone's gonna get me on the technical term for it, but he did all that work. It's like, I just feel you could really hear that sense, and I think which is why some people, when we've brought up Fall Out Boy for music and mental health and being mental health advocates in any way, they kinda overlook them, but, like, listen to this record and even their new one, Stardust. If you listen to that, yeah, you will get it. So I all the gin joints, I had Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner because a lot of people, I remember I first heard it on that EP they did, that acoustic, Your Heart Will Always Be the B-side to My Tongue, and I loved it then. And so when I heard it on this CD, I was like, "I love this version better," because I just think it fit it. And some people would fight me during that time, like, "That this wasn't anywhere else. This is a new song." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not a new song." But I think, again, that brought me back to old school Fall Out Boy on the energetic side of Fall Out Boy. But it was just something about that song, and I just think it was in all my little, aim away messages, all of that. Like, I always had that, and I loved, and too, about this record, like, I kinda glanced over and didn't talk about, like, the song titles on this. There are all these long song titles that I think, like, started with Fall Out Boy for sure, or, like, Panic at the Disco too, but 7 Minutes in Heaven, because I just have that memory of at the CD release show, and I think this was maybe the only time on this touring cycle that I heard 7 Minutes in Heaven, and I remember it just being so crazy, and the crowd was crazy. I don't know if that was the one that Pete jumped in the crowd, but, like, it just something about hearing that, and I don't think I've heard it often, and I think when they did, like, the 8 Ball, that recent tour, I was hoping I would hear it again, but I didn't on mine, and I just there's a part, like, I had to write this down because of the fact that, like, at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, there's that moment with Patrick Stump, like you were talking about with his vocals, that it's like he's, like, going, like, "Da da 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 da," like, I just think that it was like, all right, Patrick Stump is in a league of his own with his vocals. Like he is what, and again, people are gonna probably be like, but like he makes Fall Out Boy. His voice, I love Fall Out Boy. I love all the members, but like Patrick Stump is just, yes, he makes Fall Out Boy the band it is today. And I have Sophomore Slump or Comeback of the Year. Especially like the lyric, like we're the therapist pumping through your speakers. Because I think again, like if I were gonna pick songs to have on our like a little playlist or soundtrack, like for our podcast, it was so, and I think during that time, like hearing they're the therapist pumping through your speakers and it was like they were that for me. I know for you probably too, but so many people I gravitated towards Fall Out Boy because of the lyrics on the CD. And they were just they were my therapist and they still are my therapist. Like I like tear up if I go see them live and how much they've changed my life. I know your life. I know so many people's lives. It would not be the same. I wouldn't have this podcast. I wouldn't have pursued music business management that like obviously it didn't last long in school, but I wouldn't have done that if like not for their lyrics and their music and all of that. So I had to put that. And I think so William Beckett is on this song and another Chicago legend, which we're gonna have an Academy is episode because they need it. But like the lyrics were like the best part of believe is the lie. And I still, whenever like I want to spell believe, I'm like the best part of believe is the lie and like make sure lie is in the middle. Like I don't know, it's something about it and it's just so special. And my last one I had to put it on here just because I do love this song so much. I slept with someone in Fall Out Boy and all I got was this song. I had to put that one because I think that was one of the more like I don't want to say like harder, like harder Fall Out Boy songs, but it's just this like, all right, this one live hits. It's so good live. It's just one of those two where you hear that hardcore background of Pete. And again, in the midst of all these like songs that are some are slower, like you have Dark Alley, what's that's slower, but this one just it's where I saw the most movement in the crowd for Fall Out Boy. And anytime it comes on, I have to. And like it just I don't know. I always want to put my hands up and be like Pete and like do the scream. Whenever it comes on, it just still and I have this weird memory of like I think it was Riot Fest 2013 and they played this song and they had it they were just coming back off of hiatus and I wasn't going to go in the crowd. I'm not going to go in the crowd for Fall Out Boy. And no, no, no. They play the song I hear I slept with someone and I literally was like, all right, I'm going in. Lost my shoe and I am hopping on with one foot, barefoot completely, and just getting to the front because I was like, I need to get to the front of this show because I need to survive for this. I cannot die in a Fall Out Boy crowd. I can't do it. But it just, they're so special. And the song just hits every single time. And I think if someone doesn't like Fall Out Boy, just play the song. Just play it because maybe they'll like it and they'll think it's someone else. Those are my top. I have to pick those because even listening back, I was like, oh, am I missing one? But then I guess on that like other edition they did, The Believers Never Die, like Music or the Misery too. That one was so good. Yeah. I
That's too funny you said that because I actually had that on my list.
oh my gosh. Look at it. 'Cause, like I had to look or was it Snitches and Talkers? That one too. There were so many good ones. Like they have so many good songs. But I guess while we talked about the ones we like, are there any that you didn't care for as much? Or even if you still like it, or maybe you came around, but were there any that you just don't like too much on this record?
No, I actually liked the entire record. I was kind of nervous coming from Take This to Your Grave
Hmm.
to this new one, and I was like, I'll give it a chance. But no, I loved every single song. I know there are some people who are kind of half and half, or they love it all, or it's gonna vary. But for me, I liked every single song. I could have talked about every single song, but I was like, let me just narrow it down a little bit. But no, I love this record. Even the like we mentioned, the limited Black Clouds and Underdogs edition, the Music of the Misery. That's probably one of the favorites as well. That when they brought that song out, I was like, I
Yeah.
can't describe it. It's such a good song.
Yeah. And I remember, I think it was that Fusion tour. I know they played it because I remember hearing it, and I remember like around that time, and especially being in Chicago too, and how special that time was. Like to have, because for me, like I know like Smashing Pumpkins, Rise Against came from there. Some people even Disturbed, people talk about Disturbed, but like I think it was special for me during this time because it was the first time of like, whoa, this band is big, getting big, and I'm watching it in real time of them going from like Arlington Heights and those the KOC, or hearing them like play Metro and like for 12, 14, $15, and like those were the days. And then now they're, and then seeing them gradually get bigger, and then going from playing the Riv to the Aragon, and if anyone's listening they don't know these, and then UIC, these are all these bigger venues in Chicago, and it was just wild to see that progression of them. And I guess too, like I already said, Dance Dance was one, but now I feel really bad because the way you described it, I was like, oh, maybe am I just the jerk that like doesn't get this song and I just think it's annoying. But like even when they played it last summer, I went to the tour for Stardust, and I went and they played it. And like the whole time I'm just like, oh, is it over yet? Like I feel bad, but it's just as like it's still fun. I don't know what it is about Dance Dance. I don't know what it is. I could never like it. But I guess if it was playing at some, not a concert or somewhere else, and I was just like with friends, I'd probably get into it. But I don't know what it is. I always just like, can I just skip it? Can I just skip Dance Dance? But now again, I feel like a big jerk about it.
Oh my gosh, no. All opinions are always welcomed. I mean, everyone, like I said, everyone's gonna have their own opinion about the, and that's the best thing about music is just hearing what everyone's thoughts are, and everyone's gonna have different thoughts, and that's okay. That's the kind of makes everyone unique and different. And yeah, with Fall Out Boy, I know you mentioned, with their progression, people always ask me all the time, they're like, how did you see them so many times back in the day?
Hmm.
I'm like, concerts were 10-15 bucks a
Yeah,
ticket, and the venues were so small. They played like probably 4 times a month, give or take. But
right.
yeah, we saw them so many times. It was cheap. Nowadays, concerts are so expensive. You probably can go to, see Fall Out Boy once. I mean, unless you save up. But yeah, it was just so cheap back then.
Yeah, like I uh literally talking about on Unsigned Pop Punk, which I was so thankful they brought me on. And one of the things I loved is they honed in on me being from, I said I was from Chicago. I know I'm one of those people, but I literally was honest too. I was like, well, wait, I'm from the burbs of Illinois, but I'm like 35-ish minutes, give or take. But I love that they honed in on that because I got to kind of dive into that and like what it was like in the scene and growing up in that, in the venues I went to, and how special it was, and being in the Midwest. Because again, when I tell people, it's like I'm at over 100 times seeing this band. And it's because also being where we were at, right? You could go to Detroit, you could go to Wisconsin, you could go to Indiana, you could go to
We went all
Pittsburgh.
over.
We went to Pittsburgh, right? So it's like all these things, you could go to so many different warp tours, so many different tours. Like like I said, like Fusion tour, we went to, I know, Chicago and then Milwaukee. And then one time for Chicago when they played that one tour with Plus 44 and Paul Wall, which was crazy. But like they played that, there were 3 nights in Chicago. There's three right there. So it's like I think people didn't realize that, or they would play like little shows too, where they were like secret shows. They would do that all the time. So we were really lucky growing up how we did. And like the other one I did too, I put just because I don't know, at the time it was get busy living or get busy dying. Do your part to save the scene and stop going to shows. Again, like these long, like what the hell is this title? But like, but I've grown to love it and appreciate it a little more because it was so different. And I think because too at the time I was still that fan looking for like that pop punk Fall Out Boy. Like that's what I wanted. And I was like, what is this? Like, and again, listening to the lyrics, I loved it, like about obsessing over living, I only obsess over you. And I think, but it was just something at the time listening to it, it was like, I'm gonna skip this just because I give me gin joints, give me Nobody Puts Baby, what's the other one? Even XO. I know we didn't talk about like there's so many good songs on here, but it was like those two are the only ones like that I skip. Like I still do. And I'm like, "Ugh." But again, this is just such again, I love this record so much. And I think when I said that we were gonna be doing this one, how many people were, like, messaging me like, "Yes, yes, yes," because so many people's, like, entry to Fall Out Boy was this record. As much as, like, Take This to Your Grave was for us, I know so many of the younger people we have on the podcast, this is like I if they were performing this at when we were young, people would be like, "Line up, get there in front row." They love it, and I still have no idea what they're gonna be doing at when we were young. They don't really say. I hope, and I think I said this on one of the episodes, is that it's like a medley, like an Eras tour. Um, and we get like that Eras tour of like Fall Out Boy, and even put like some, from Evening Out, bring out those. Like, but I don't know if they will, but I don't know. I think just Fall Out Boy is so special. Like I wouldn't have the friendship with you, and I wouldn't have stuck with the music as I did. I wouldn't be doing this. I just wouldn't there's so much, and, like, I love Fall Out Boy so much, and I don't know, is there anything that, like, we didn't cover that you think we should cover about Fall Out Boy? Anything else that, like, if for whatever reason, I guess I'll say this, if for whatever reason, if somebody, like, grew out of Fall Out Boy or they didn't like Fall Out Boy, or they never gave him a chance, because I know some people that have never given this band a chance for whatever reason. How or, like, what would you say to them, like, why should they check out Fall Out Boy?
I mean, that's a great question. Anyone I used to run into or still do, they typically know my favorite band is still Fall Out Boy. I try to get them to listen at least. I mean, they don't have to like them, that's their opinion, but I always tell them, from under the cork tree, a lot of times the person already knows Fall Out Boy because of the album. I know, I mean, back in the day with TRL, I know they were
Mhm.
playing Sugar We're Going Down, they were playing Dance Dance. If anyone remembers that show, I'm pretty sure they do. It was pretty pivotal for their career. But if they don't like From Under the Cork Tree, which is okay, then I tell them try Take This to Your Grave, and
Mhm.
sometimes they're like, oh, this is much better. This is the avenue that we want to hear from them. But I try to get people to at least listen to them. I don't expect them to love them as much as I do, and that's okay. Like I
Yeah.
said, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but at least give them a shot.
Yeah, like, that's the thing too is, oddly enough, like, G, who anyone if it's your first time, that's my fiancé. I don't think he's listened to snippets of Take This to Your Grave, but he's never listened to From Under the Cork Tree. He knows Patrick Stump, but when it comes to Fall Out Boy, he probably couldn't name you he could maybe name you 1 or 2 songs, and so again, like, I never expect him, like I'm like, "I love them, they're a huge part of my life," like, when anytime they come, like, they are that band that, like, I have to see, no matter what, just because they give me that feeling, and, like, it does suck that their shows are expensive now, and I hate that, and I hate that, like again, I was very thankful that Jackie and Enrique, I know, our friends, they came out and we were in the lawn, but I'm like, "I wish we were closer," because, like, it just there's something about being closer for Fall Out Boy, and I hope that we get that again, whether it's, like, the resurgence of Warp Tour, which I heard maybe potentially coming back, and I
Fingers
just think
crossed.
I know, and I hope it's the same. I hope it's the same, although I don't think so with Live Nation, but I would hope that it's the same, and maybe we get some of the bands like Fall Out Boy on it, and then, like, the newer bands that are coming out too. I would love to see that because Warped Tour wasn't just, like, all these bands we knew, it was newer bands, so I wonder how they're gonna do it, but I just so many memories with Fall Out Boy, and yeah, I guess check them out because, like, we did an episode about a record that changed your life, and I picked Take This to Your Grave. I was like, "This record absolutely changed my life in, like, every way possible." It changed everything for me, and, I remember somebody commenting, "You know what? I never really gave them a chance." And they went to go listen to Take This to Your Grave, and just like you were describing, they were like, "Oh, this is actually really, really good, like, why didn't I check it out before?" And I think because, honestly, much like Good Charlotte, I talked about, you were kinda almost a posers, like, some people viewed you as that because Fall Out Boy wasn't that typical, like, punk, like, they were just I don't know, a lot of people, again, they're pop punk, but, like, they were different. I don't know how else to describe Fall Out Boy at that time, but they were just a different band, and I think that a lot of people wanted to be cool, especially in Chicago, and say, "I don't like them." I know some people that are, like, big and like not gonna name names that are big that do like shows and stuff, that it's almost like they wanted to just say like, yeah, we don't like them. I've never listened to them. I've never liked them. And it's like, okay, that's cool. That's really cool. But they're a really great band and they mean a lot to Chicago and so many of us growing up in Chicago. And yeah, if you want to act cool, that's fine. But like you hear Sugar We're Going Down or like any of these songs, you know you're gonna go off in the crowd. I don't care what you say. Like I'm gonna look for you. But yeah, they're just so important. Just go listen to Fall Out Boy. Go listen to this record if for whatever reason you missed it, you never checked it out. And yeah, that's all we have to say about From Under the Cork Tree. It's really, really good. And I'll post links too. So if you are someone that's never listened to it, I would love to hear if you like it now. Or if you didn't like it, if you go back, if you like it. So, but Mo, this has been so much fun. And it's been so great to talk Fall Out Boy with you because again, I could not have done it with anyone. Like you were the best person that I could have picked to talk Fall Out Boy. I know how much you love them. And again, we would not be friends without Fall Out Boy. So I appreciate you.
I know most people, I think, like you said, Jackie and Enrique.
Yeah.
Um, my best friend Steven, when I worked with him, he kept wearing his Fall Out Boy hoodie. I'm
Yes.
like, who is this? And he's like,
Yeah.
I have to introduce you to them. And it's been I've known Steven now, oh my gosh, like 21 years now, ever since then, Fall Out Boy as well. So it's crazy to think how long Fall Out Boy has been around. I think they're just gonna be one of those bands that's just around for however long they want to play for.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. And like even I think so. We did a Folie à Deux episode, and I had my new friend Chanel that because of the podcast, she found us. Her husband is friends with G and they game together, but she listened to the podcast and huge Fall Out Boy fan. I think about even I'm still meeting new people that listen to this band. And yeah, oh, Steven, yeah, I met him at that show, and it's like all these people that we met that are still in our lives. And it's, yeah, that says a lot. And I'm with you. Like I always joke and say that when I dated not so good people, I always said, these bands are going to be with me longer than you are. And look at us. We're at almost 20 years of this record and they're still in my life. I love them so much. And that person is no longer with me. So like it's a win-win. But oh my gosh, yes. Oh, so great. And as for, I know Justine will not be back. As for myself, I usually say, and for Justine and I, but as for myself, you will hear me next week with another episode. But thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time. All right. Bye, guys.